This story is based on the real-life journey of Jim Carroll, and it carries a powerful lesson for young people. It is a story that every youth should experience, because it shows how one wrong decision can completely change the course of a person's life. Through this narrative, we see how choices made in a single moment can have lasting consequences, and how those consequences can ultimately destroy an entire future. The story begins inside a classroom, where a boy named Jim is being harshly punished by his teacher. Just then, the bell rings to signal the end of the period. Jim tells his teacher that even though the punishment was painful, he had started to enjoy it, and the teacher replies that they can continue again tomorrow. After class, Jim leaves with his 3 closest friends, Pedro, Mickey, and Neutron. These boys are mischievous. They smoke, act recklessly, and never think before doing anything. They even sew clothes in thinner and inhale the fumes to feel intoxicated. But Jim has something special about him. He plays basketball exceptionally well. Their school team faces another school in a basketball match, and Jim performs brilliantly, leading his team to victory. However, while the game is still going on, Jim's friend sneaks into the locker room and steals valuables like money and watches from the opposing players. Later, when the 4 friends are outside a restaurant, the rival team confronts them, demanding their belongings back. Jim and his friends refuse, and a fight breaks out between the 2 groups. Jim and his friends overpower them and escape. Afterward, Jim visits the hospital, where he meets Bobby, someone he has known since he was 3 years old. Bobby was once the best player on their team, but 2 years ago, he was diagnosed with leukemia. Jim believes with all his heart that Bobby will fight through it, because Bobby is his closest friend in the world. Jim even takes Bobby out to a strip show, but Bobby doesn't enjoy it, so Jim brings him back to the hospital. Jim spends most of his time with his 3 friends, always indulging in fun and mischief. At times, they even visit places associated with prostitution. Beyond basketball, Jim also has another passion. Whenever he has free time or a thought crosses his mind, he writes it down in his notebook. Sadly, Bobby passes away a few days later. When Jim goes to see him, Bobby looks frail and skeletal. Even though he is only 16 years old, he appears as if he is 60. This devastates Jim deeply, leaving him restless and unable to enjoy anything. One evening, after watching a movie with his friends, Jim realizes he cannot even recall the storyline because his mind is consumed with grief. While his friends seem unaffected by Bobby's death, Jim is heartbroken. In his sadness, Jim visits a place where people are using heroin. Although he is terrified of injections, he tries heroin for the first time. The moment he takes it, all his pain, sorrow, and emptiness seem to vanish. He feels as if he is running through fields of flowers, surrounded by beauty everywhere. But when he returns home, his mother sees his condition and is deeply hurt. She works at a hospital and tries to understand what he is going through, but Jim tells her she knows nothing. Gradually, Jim and his friends become addicted. At first, they use it once a week, then twice, until eventually they crave it all the time. The drug is expensive, and they need money to sustain their habit. One night, they spot an elderly woman walking down a dark street. The 4 friends rob her purse and run away, and one of Jim's friends even strikes her. The next day, Jim and his friends attend the school church service, which is mandatory for all students. When it is time for confession, Jim refuses, saying he is not in the mood. The father tells him that perhaps he is the one who needs confession the most. Jim then enters the confessional, a place where people share the deepest truths of their hearts with the priest, who never reveals them to anyone. Jim wants to confess about his drug use and heroin, but he cannot bring himself to say it. Deep inside, he wishes to quit, yet every time he promises himself that it will be the last time, that last time never comes. Because with addiction, a person may want to leave it, but the addiction never wants to leave the person. One day, Jim is using drugs in the school washroom when his coach walks in. Jim quickly hides his tablets, but the coach misinterprets the situation. He tries to bribe Jim with money in exchange for exploiting him, but Jim firmly refuses, pushes him away, and even causes the coach's nose to bleed. The coach pleads with Jim to take the money and keep quiet, but Jim warns him never to approach again. Although the coach now knows Jim is using drugs, he leaves. Later, during a basketball match, Jim and his friends take pills before the game, despite Neutron warning them not to. Neutron avoids drugs, but Jim and two others ignore his advice. As the match begins, Jim and another friend perform terribly, unable to even see the ball clearly, and their team suffers a crushing defeat. The third friend, who usually steals from rival players, is not part of the team during this match. Soon after, the father arrives with the police, knowing these boys are involved with drugs. They search the lockers, but find nothing, since the boys have already consumed everything. Still, the father suspends them from school for a week, and the coach expels them permanently from the basketball team. Jim defiantly declares that he quits the team and the school himself. The father accepts his resignation, and Jim, along with two friends, leaves the school. Neutron stays behind, as he has not taken drugs and does not want to follow their path. When Jim returns home, his mother asks why he was expelled. Jim insists it was a conspiracy and denies taking any pills. But his mother shows him the pills she found hidden at home, asking if they are vitamins. Jim becomes angry, speaks disrespectfully, and his mother tells him to leave the house. As he storms out, she throws his basketball trophy out the window, the very symbol of his dreams. Jim picks up the broken trophy, drops it into a garbage bin, and tells his mother he will never return home again. His mother, heartbroken, begs him not to say such things because she loves him deeply and does not want him to ruin his life. Yet Jim walks away, leaving behind his shattered dream. Now Jim and his friends desperately need money to feed their addiction. They begin stealing cars and spend their days surrounded by people who are also consumed by drugs. For them, this world of intoxication becomes the only reality, and they stop caring about anything else. As time passes, their habits grow worse. They even attempt to rob a store, where Mickey finds a gun without bullets and takes it. But they fail to get money, and soon the police arrive. Jim and Mickey urge their friend Pedro to leave, but he is too high and begins hallucinating, imagining he is inside an ice cream parlor. Unable to convince him, Jim and Mickey escape, while the police arrest Pedro. Later, Jim and Mickey sit in a bar watching television. The news shows that some of their former teammates have been selected for the All-American high school basketball games, making their families proud. One boy even dedicates his success to his mother. This was once Jim and Mickey's dream too, but now they have abandoned the real path of life for a destructive one. Jim secretly goes near his home and watches his mother carrying groceries inside, but he cannot gather the courage to meet her. Instead, he returns to the place where he takes drugs. There, a boy suddenly attacks him, blaming Jim for giving his girlfriend drugs that nearly killed her. Jim insists it was not his fault, but the boy throws him down the stairs. Jim's mind begins to collapse completely. He experiences terrifying hallucinations. He imagines himself playing basketball, being shot, seeing the net burning, and wearing his team uniform, though in reality, he is still in his same clothes. For Jim, drugs have become like uncontrollable dreams that take over whether he wants them or not. He ends up lying almost lifeless on the icy ground of a basketball court. At that moment, a man named Reggie, who once practiced basketball with Jim, finds him. Knowing Jim's talent, Reggie takes him home. When Jim wakes up the next morning, he tries to leave, but realizes his drugs are missing. He pleads with Reggie to return them, but Reggie refuses, saying he will not let Jim destroy his life. He even flushes the drugs down the drain in front of him. Jim is devastated, but Reggie tells him that someone once helped him too, and now it is his turn to help Jim. Jim begs desperately, saying everything feels like it is spinning, but Reggie keeps him inside, sitting outside his door to make sure he doesn't leave. The following morning, Reggie tells Jim to control himself and promises to return after work. He also asks Jim to mention his name in the book he is always writing in his diary. After Reggie leaves, Jim tries to fight his urges, but once again the world seems to spin around him. He searches the house for money, but finds nothing. Jim is now so desperate for drugs that he goes to a girl named Diana, who is herself trapped in addiction and prostitution. There was a time when Diana once asked Jim and his friends for money, but back then they mocked her because they were not yet using drugs. Today, Jim stands in the same place where Diana once begged, and now he is the one pleading for money. Diana refuses at first, but as Jim begs, almost like a broken man, she throws money on the ground as if giving it to a beggar, and then walks away. Jim shouts angrily, calling her a prostitute. But when she leaves, he still picks up the money. At this point in his life, dignity and respect mean nothing to him. Only drugs matter. Yet the money is not enough to buy heroin. So Jim does something he never imagined. In a public restroom, he compromises himself with an old man just to get money. Though he hates it, his addiction forces him to do it. With the money, Jim goes to Mickey, and together they meet a drug dealer who gives them heroin. But when they test it, they realize it is fake. Furious, they chase the dealer to the rooftop, demanding their money back. As Mickey grabs him, the dealer slips and falls from the building, dying instantly. Jim tells Mickey that they have gone too far, that no one can save them now. Mickey runs, but gang members catch him, beat him badly, and the police arrest him. Jim, meanwhile, returns home, still craving drugs. He begs his mother for $5, saying he is her son and needs it desperately. His mother refuses to let him in, knowing he will only use the money for drugs. Though she loves him deeply, she calls the police, hoping jail might save him. The police take Jim away. In prison, Jim finally begins to realize his mistakes. He promises his mother he will change, but she cannot help him anymore. For all his crimes, Jim is sentenced to 6 months. During this time, he completes the diary he has been writing. After his release, he stands outside a stage where he is about to read his poetry. There, he meets Pedro, the friend who was arrested first. Pedro tells him he has good drugs to share, but Jim refuses, saying he cannot return to that world. He tells Pedro to take care of himself and walks inside. On stage, Jim reads his poetry, and the audience loves it, applauding loudly. We learn that Jim Carroll completed his diary at the age of 17, titled the Basketball Diaries, which became widely known. By the age of 22, he had published 3 volumes of poetry and recorded for albums. He lived in New York until 2009, working as a poet, musician, novelist, and performer. So friends, this is the true story of Jim Carroll's life. A powerful reminder that there are many temptations in this world that may seem appealing, but they are never truly good for us. Addiction is one of those temptations. It never favors anyone. If Jim had not fought against drugs at the right time, he might have lost his life and remained unknown. Instead, he battled his addiction, fought against himself, and achieved greatness. In his interviews, Jim said that if you want to quit drugs, only one thing can truly help you: your inner strength. Nothing else can free you from addiction. This is the complete story of the Basketball Diaries. The film was released in 1995 and hold a rating of 7.3 on IMDb. We hope this story touched your heart and left you with a lasting lesson.